We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral. The territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy, the Ojibwe, and other allied nations to share peaceably and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. This remains the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work within their community and to share and respect Mother Earth.
Please be seated. Very good. All right.
Well, for those of you, we're done. Is my mic on too? It is. For those of you who were suffering COVID last week, happy Easter. There were so many of us down last week. I was afraid that if we hadn't had Duncan, we would have had no service whatsoever. It's just so wonderful to have folks, and isn't it great to have our music band back live? Hey. These two have worked as hard as any of us during this pandemic, and the only thing we miss today is their smiles, but we hope to have those back soon. For those of you online who may not know, this is my last Sunday as your senior minister, and next week we have the dynamic the effervescent Reverend Dr. Ted Lutz preaching, and the following week, and I think, is that a combined service? Anybody know? It's a combined service at 10? At 10:30. Oh, because there's a marathon that closes the roads and cuts off all worshiping people. The following week, you'll meet your new lead minister, the Reverend Heather Weaver Oros, who is wonderful. I know her. She's just magnificent, much better than me. So you're going to have a great time with her. She has wonderful gifts. And Victoria asked me to remind everyone to pick up, as you leave today, some sunflower seeds. These were purchased, and the money went to help the folk in Ukraine. And so now you can all grow sunflowers and either let the birds have them, or you can maybe fight for a few of them yourselves. But that's a little Easter gift that COVID prevented us from handing out last week. This is traditionally Holy Humor Sunday at Christ First. This service will be a little different than our Holy Humor services. I don't actually know what will unfold. I was cut out of the process at a certain point, which made me feel very insecure, but I'm trusting. Here are some of the Holy Humor that Sandy Skinner, one of our members, faithfully gathered for me during the months after last year's Holy Humor service and his illness and sad passing. Sandy Skinner, you're going to have to slow them down, I think, a little bit there if they're going to read them. Sandy Skinner had a great sense of humor and shared that with me over all 4 years. So most of the Holy Humor, we had lots from others too, but most of it came in emails about every 10 days that Sandy shared with me. And it's lovely to remember him by sharing the humor that he shared with me in his last months. Shall I read these? David, there is a Mrs. Goliath here to see you. Okay. The three wise guys. Unfortunately, one stands on a rake. Wise men, huh? Says Joseph. Could you leave the bubble wrap alone for 5 seconds and look at these? The 10 Commandments came in bubble wrap. Moses, stop it. Well, if it isn't Joseph and Mary, her horse said, well, I suppose that's a donkey. Our son, can we go back? Our son is an honor student. Our son is in medical school. Our son is God. Face it, Sven, we're old. Pillage doesn't mean what it used to mean. That really hits home for me. I was an Easter egg. We used to have a rooster that was multicolored, beautiful rooster. Here, the bread and the fishes. I can't eat that, I'm vegan. Has that fish been tested for mercury? Is that bread gluten-free? Noah's Ark Complaints Department. And the complaint is you only brought 2 ants? Noah, keep an eye out for my mother. She's coming with us. Actually, you had looking down at your phone and you missed it. Two little worms. Well, that would certainly explain why he let 3 of us on board. Quit whining. It's just a satchel for carrying them. No one's going to call it a man purse. Hail, Mary. Sandy's memorial service will actually be at 10:30 on Friday the 29th this week in our Port Credit campus. So wonderful memories of a great man. It is so good to have our worship band with us, and this is a kind of addition to our service that we hope now will be more permanent, and we hope too, as I say, that maybe they can sing unmasked shortly. Join me in the responsive invitation and prayer, if it comes up. Okay, this is the response, so I will lead you into it. In the beauty of this day, in the peace of this place, in the sacredness of this hour, we know the goodness of God's presence among us. With our hearts freed by faith, our minds lifted by hope, our souls healed by love, we give praise for Christ working within us. In the vision we share, in the prayers we bring, in the strength we offer, we sense the Spirit moving in and through us. Today we celebrate what God has done for us, at work within us, still calling and using us. We rejoice as God's people at Christ first. Together we worship God. And again, responsively, so you need to keep your eyes open and up, let us pray. And again, I will lead you. God of love, who cares for us with a parent's tenderness, embraces us with a friend's kindness, leads us with a shepherd's faithfulness, with gladness we gather to worship you. We give thanks today for the richness of the past, the promise of the present, the possibilities of the future. We open our hearts today that you might free us from all fear, strengthen us in sorrow, encourage us in hope. As we celebrate this day, what has been, we rejoice that you will be with us in all that is to come. To you be all thanks, praise, and glory through Jesus Christ our Savior. Amen.
Creator in heaven.
In heaven. And come on and take a seat. Lucas, we have some new friends here, and one of them's in a Spider-Man sweater. Emma, this
Starting
way. This
the
way.
campaign.
Hi, guys. We have some new friends here today. Yeah? You got it, girl. So today, we lost my son. Lucas is running around, the one who likes Spider-Man. He's just left the building. So hopefully he'll come back. Today is our friend Morar's last service with us. Do you know what she's doing? Retiring. Do you know what, again, do you know what retiring is? Yeah, Conrad, what's retiring?
When you stop a job because you're too old.
You're so right, Conrad.
This is why I forever will prefer working with kids than adults. When you stop working at your job, right? Because you've earned it. I think Morar has earned it, hasn't she? So at the back of the church, we have these little retirement advice cards. So if you haven't picked one up, I highly recommend you pick one up and write a little piece of advice for Morar on the back, and then pop it in at the back. The back, there's a box for these cards. So I thought together we could give Morar some advice. Would you like to come sit? Would you like to sit down? All right. What is something that we could give Morar some advice about? What could she do while she's on retirement? What do you think? What do you think someone should do in retirement?
Reading a book.
She could read, don't forget to read books.
Oh,
That's a really good one. I love books.
that's a great one.
Anything else she should do? That's it? Yes, what else?
Read a Spider-Man.
You should really catch up on your Spider-Man books.
Oh, okay.
We're going to put that catch up on superheroes. Superheroes. Brad, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, don't forget to eat.
Don't forget to eat, a really good one too.
That's a great one.
So we're going to pop that in from the Christ First Kids. And we have got a little poem for Morar. So if we could hit it at the back.
Thank you, Reverend, for all you do.
For your work.
Your kindness. Guidance, too. You point to Jesus.
You walk the walk.
We usually listen when you talk.
We have come to love you so.
And now we hate to see you go.
We think you are special.
We think you're great. And we'll miss you every day.
Now, Morar, come join us at the front.
Mommy,
Yeah?
the phone is on this.
Okay, thank you. So, if there's one thing that my kids or anyone close to me will tell you, it is that not only do I love a good party, but I will go way overboard with the theme of a party. So we have a few treats for you, Morar. I need a helper. All right, Lucas. Would you give this to Morar, please? We heard after your Easter sermon that you like dressing up too.
Thank you.
So we have a
Oh, retired and fabulous.
sash for you. Would you like to help me too? Maybe you and your brother could help me with this one. Because not only do we have a sash, but we have a fabulous fascinator as well.
Oh, wow. Oh. My last retirement was, the theme was hats, so I had to wear a hat for that one too.
Can you put that away, please? Thank you. All right, and we've got a plant. We've got some flowers over here that maybe, would you and Conrad like to go help Andy? Our friend Andy's going to bring these flowers over. That's another present. We've got so
wow.
many things here.
Do you need some help? Can your brother help you? That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look at this. Oh, my goodness. Maybe we'll put it right here. Super. Wonderful. Thank you.
In the last couple weeks in Sunday school, we prepared a very special present as well. I wonder if, would you like to give this to her? Thank you. This was very special to us.
Thank
we
you so
painted Morar a
much.
picture, and all of the leaves on the tree are our thumbprints, and some other
that
figures
nice?
as well.
She is a tree of life to those who take hold of her. Those who would hold her fast will be blessed. Proverbs 3 from the Christ First Kids. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
We have really enjoyed having you be our minister, haven't we, guys? And a few weeks ago, Morar preached about how when we get a new minister at the church, we also get their family, right? And so do you know who's at the back of the church right now? Morar's granddaughter, Hannah. Hannah, would you come up to the front, please? I know you're not expecting this. But as Morar is retiring, we're also losing one of our hosts. This is Hannah's last week with us. I need one more. Evelyn, would you give this to her? And we have a little gift for you, Hannah, too.
Oh.
Lucas, would you give this to Hannah,
Nice.
please? Thank you. We are going to miss you guys, and all the best in the future. And I know we're going to see you soon, right?
I hope
This
so.
is not goodbye forever, but just a see you later. Right? All right, well, you guys, I think, are ready to head off to Sunday school. We've got Sandra on Sunday school. Our friend Abby is going to help out. And I would like to invite Teresa up to the front to say a few words as well.
I will, just to embarrass him, point out that my husband is here, which also was a surprise. I wasn't expecting him to make the early service. So, Alan, do you want to just wave? Family plays a big role in ministers' lives. You haven't gotten to see him much, but he's been very supportive of our time here, and usually is in an Anglican church at 8 a.m., so we're blessed not to have worship that starts quite so early at Christ First.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, it is now.
Awesome. I'm Teresa Madeira, Chair of the Spiritual Development Committee, and I wanted to take this opportunity today on behalf of our 902 Church family to express our thanks and gratitude to Morar. How blessed we are to have had the privilege of having Morar not only as our faithful minister, but as a leader, a mentor, a teacher, caregiver, friend, and champion of Christ First. Morar not only guided and supported us through the very heavy lift of a church amalgamation, but also through extraordinary social changes and transformation of how we worship and do church, including all the technical trials and tribulations that came along with that. Her many talents, good humor, compassion, kindness, and spiritual care for others was a gift to us all. Morar, we are so grateful for the time we've had with you and wish you many wonderful years ahead, filled with blessings of good health and joy. Thank you for the love and care you've bestowed on Christ First over the past few years. You will be missed by all.
Thank you, Teresa. Oh.
I was curious how Reverend Morar came to be minister at New Church. When I asked her, the response was, "Wait until Sunday." Unfortunately, I thought I would be speaking after you, so I'm going to have to change this up just a little bit.
Okay. Do you want to speak after me? Because we could go on if you want.
No, it's all right. We can manage. Here's the brief history as I think I remember it. In the spring of 2018, talks were started between Christchurch and First United around amalgamation. In November 2018, both congregations voted to amalgamate. Sometime between those 2 dates, Reverend Carney from Christchurch decided to change his pastoral relationship. Now, presbytery would have been obligated to appoint a temporary minister until a new permanent minister could be called. I can imagine pastoral relations thinking, new church needs a new minister? Oh, and by the way, they'd just come through an amalgamation that took less than a year. Finding someone who had those skills, strengths, and willingness to volunteer for that challenge would be a 1 in a million shot. So I'll bet they were dancing for joy when Morar volunteered for this position. So she got an 8-month appointment, followed by a 1-year extension, and then another extension. From day one, Morar's goal was to prepare Christ first for the calling of a new permanent minister and building a healthy, lasting pastoral relationship. Morar's work with Horseshoe Region on the Fresh Start program has provided us with the tools to do that. Every sermon, meeting, or conversation contains some nugget of wisdom, a reminder or an example of how to build strong relationships and live a Christ-like life. We will miss you, Morar, for your wisdom, compassion, justice, strength, love, and especially joy. You remind us that when surrounded with God's endless love, we can still have fun. As you head into retirement, we wish you much success in all that you're planning. In the busy days ahead, take a moment to know that you are in our hearts. Peace and grace and much love from your friends at Christ Church.
Thank you, Rick.
Hi, Morar. It's been a pleasure working with you these past few months.
We're wishing you all the best in the future.
We've really appreciated having your many gifts, and we hope that you take care.
Bye.
Hi, Morar. It's been a pleasure working with you these past few months.
We're wishing you all the best in the future.
We've really appreciated having your many gifts, and we hope that you take care.
Bye. Oh, why are you so...
This is how I am. That's me slouching. This is me actually sitting.
There, I think it's already recording.
Oh, good. Google. Stop.
All right, it's cancelled.
Yeah. Do you have a timer going? Stop.
Okay. In the morning I have to say it 3 times. She won't stop. Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah. I said take care of it.
No, I'll say it alone.
Okay, let's go. Take 1.
Hi, Morar. Oh no.
Take 2. I think it was.
I thought you would just be like,
I did. This is, well, you know, look at who you're working with.
yeah, that's true.
Share a shortened version of this song with you. This is Soul on Fire.
When I am a soul on fire.
This is a reading from Numbers chapter 8, verses 23 to 26. God spoke to Moses, saying, "This applies to the Levites. From 25 years old and upwards, they shall begin to do duty in the service of the tent of meeting. And from the age of 50 years, they shall retire from the duty of the service and serve no more. They may assist others in the tent of meeting in carrying out their duties, but they shall perform no service. Thus you shall deal with the Levites in assigning their duties." This is a reading from Matthew chapter 6, verses 25 to 34. Do not worry. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow, nor reap, nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your span of life? And why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not clothed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grasses of the field, which is alive today and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, you of little faith? Therefore do not worry, saying, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or what will we wear? For it is the Gentiles who strive for all these things, and indeed your God knows that you need all these things. But strive first for the kingdom of God and God's righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. So do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring worries of its own. Today's trouble is enough for today.
Did you put your hand up, Duncan? I didn't notice it. Oh, 2 thumbs. Great, thank you. Victoria suggested the first reading from the book of Numbers, and it would be a great book for Reverend Ted to lead us in Bible study once he's finished the Gospels, because it reminds us of the messiness of being God's people. As you read it, if you read the whole thing through at one sitting, it's just a kind of cacophony of human weakness, fallibility, and disobedience. But yet, through it all, God is just, and there are consequences for bad behavior, but God remains faithful. But today is a really humorous choice, especially to Victoria, for whom 50 is old. We are to work from 25 years of age to 50 years of age and then retire. Well, I hope that might be in your future, Victoria, but I'm long since past my best by date, a little ripe for retirement. I've always admired lay people. I think that lay people are more wonderful than ministers, because ministers are paid to be good, whereas lay people are good for nothing. As Rick, the chair of our council, said on Wednesday, he asked me how I ended up here. It was certainly a surprise to me, because when I retired after 31 years at Maple Grove, I really had no intention of saying yes for at least the first 6 months, because that was the advice my colleagues gave me. So this is for you, Rick. The other side of the story, as you folks were working your way through amalgamation territory. I first embarked on this journey with a telephone call from Sue Giddings, who wondered if I would meet with 3 members of Christ Church. And her husband, Dave, had been a phenomenal support, and continues to be, to the faith communities in Oakville and to Maple Grove in particular, where he's a town and regional counselor. So through him, I got to know Sue. And here's a picture of Sue at a Hanukkah service at Sharai Bethel Synagogue just down the street from our home, helping Hannah, that's little Hannah with the pigtails, to comfort Madison, her younger sister, after she bumped her head on a chair. It was kind of hard to say no, because that was the lasting image I had in my head of Sue Giddings. So that was the first step in this process. So you can thank Sue for that, for comforting Madison. And then John Nicholson, who since jumped ship and moved to Port Dover, Sean Bush, who chairs our REOC Development Committee, were in the Giddings backyard when I arrived. It was quite dark, so, I won't say this at the next service because Steve will be there, but I could just sort of see the gleam. John and Steve, of course, are both, fairly shiny at the top. I could just see the gleam of their heads, So I listened to the story of their journey with First toward amalgamation, which had been that I asked, what about the culture of your church do you value? What would you want to keep? And what would you be willing to sacrifice in order to join with First? At the end of the evening, I left with a much different plan for retirement to present to Alan. And I do have to thank Sue, John, Sean, and Steve for seeing something in me that would change our lives, yours and mine. Recently, Sean approached me, actually while I was on vacation, on behalf of a few members to see if they could nominate me for the position of moderator of the United Church, which is the top spiritual leader in the United Church. I see John Fargy clapping. He knows that role well. But, I really did think I was past my best by date for that as well. It's a pretty demanding job and involves, in normal circumstances, a huge amount of travel. But it was really lovely to be asked. So it was a lovely going away gift to have the trust of those anonymous folk. Then from that point, getting back to my story, I met with Ed Mock, who was the chair of First, and the leaders of First, and listened to the story of their journey toward amalgamation. And after I listened, I asked, what about the culture of your church do you value? What would you want to keep? And what would you be willing to sacrifice in order to join with Christ Church? And so began our journey. The 6th chapter of Matthew is a rich resource to grow our faith. One of the reasons I chose this passage was because it was the very first passage that I preached on at 16 years of age at Beaurepaire United Church in Beaconsfield, Quebec, outside of Montreal. And I've been trying to live up to it ever since. Early in the chapter, we're urged to live a godly life, to be generous, but to keep our generosity hidden, to pray, but not with fanfare, to live pure lives, sort of inner holiness kind of a manual. So read that first part of the Gospel of Matthew. And if you're attending the Bible study, I'm sure you'll be talking about it with Reverend Ted. I particularly love the end of the chapter, though, which has Jesus telling us not to worry. First, the metaphors are beautiful. Look at the birds of the air. Consider the lilies of the field. A beautiful way to say God listens. God listens to us. The beauty of the passage, however, tricks us into thinking that this don't worry part will be as easy as a walk in the park. You don't have to know me for long to know that I am a worrier. You can ask my husband or my kids or my granddaughter. So this is a challenge for me, and it's one of the reasons that I think it's an appropriate passage for me personally, as I seek to not worry about other things than work. But I have learned that I didn't need to worry about a lot of things here that I expected to have to worry about. And that was because of the leadership at Christ First. So as I ruminated on this passage, I began to realize that one of the ways of striving for the kingdom, striving for the realm of God here on earth, striving for God's justice, is to create a healthy culture. That's difficult. It takes care and commitment on everyone's part to create a church that is faithful, caring, focused on justice, and permanent. Culture is fragile. It doesn't take much to destroy it. One bit of thoughtless behavior by a member or a group or a minister can infect church culture. And I've seen it in so many instances in the work that I've done for the wider church in working with churches and ministers. Perhaps you see it in the cultures that you inhabit outside of the church. Friends who suddenly aren't friends anymore. Families that break apart. Even when we share a vision of how we want to be in a relationship, that vision is hard to realize and even harder to maintain. Well, I'll give you an example of this. While teaching practical theology at the University of British Columbia, the theological school there, faculty had to share in a ritual that's very familiar to students, school children. We had to present to the student body our answer to the question every fall, what did you do on your summer vacation? And I remember one colleague telling us about his great week with his visiting family. You know, there's so much to see and do, and it's so beautiful out in Vancouver and the Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island, describing all of the lovely activities, the wonderful conversations, the great meals that went on for hours. And then he said, and for the second week, we remembered what a great time we had the first week. Even with those we love most, we stumble. And the church is no different. It's a human institution, striving for the kingdom, the realm of justice, but often falling short. So this insight into that part of the passage helped to explain something valuable to me about my time here. My most important role was striving for God's kingdom, beginning to create a healthy, safe culture for two congregations on their way to becoming one. That was slowed by the pandemic and a great frustration to all of us. But I was still able to work at that with our leaders, the culture builders, the ones who show the way to build God's realm, to strive for the kingdom. And that includes all who step forward and stretch to meet our needs in all the ways that our committees work so hard at. And in figuring out how we can be the best stewards possible of the resources that we have to create a legacy for those to come and to sustain a United Church presence in our communities. So important and so tragic that the church is declining just when there are so few groups like the United Church of Canada that holds all of these values and practices inclusive love with everyone in a way that so many, even in the Christian church, do not. So we need a legacy. We need to be here for longer than just our lifetimes. After my first council meeting, Steve Shaver as chair and I were walking to the parking lot. And he confessed that he didn't have a lot of confidence in himself as a chair. He says, I'm just a property chair, you know. I'm not really gifted at being chair of a council. But already I realized that Steve had stretched to be the perfect chair for amalgamation. And I learned a lot from him about how to shepherd that process, to keep connected with people and really listen to their concerns. And he has patiently listened to my rants about the region and national who were so lacking in help during the amalgamation, or whatever challenge I was facing at the moment. We had planned to honor Steve in 2020 as Rick took over the responsibilities of chair. But since the pandemic worked against us, I do want to thank him for leadership through as we took on this identity of Christ first. And that's an example of the best kind of leadership. Leaders who stretch to meet the needs of the role. And everyone in leadership has done this, myself included. When I first came, I met with the ministers, the retired ministers in our church, who became our very active ministers emeriti. Ted and Bob in particular have been a great gift to me. Reverend Ted, both volunteering for next week. Ted managed to get in under the wire. With the help of Christine and Bob too, as he's known, Bob Rollwagon, they have become the film stars that they are today, recording sermons and Zooming Bible study. And their encouraging emails for our worship and preaching have energized and motivated the worship teams. If you get a chance to say one positive thing about what worship in this church, put it in an email, because that email gets sent all around the team, and you just feel like, I can do this. And that makes up for the times when we make lots of mistakes and the technology glitches have their own mind of their own. Scott Beckett, whom we saw in the outtakes, has stretched to find different methods of pastoral care and preached and led worship for us online. And we remember Mark Chown, who was a great colleague in my first year, but was with Christchurch much longer. And Victoria, she is a Lasta woman. She has stretched from sitting in the pew to the pulpit, creating fabulous children's and family ministries in COVID that no other church has come up with. And she's led us in directing community and global issues, in guiding us in how to address them, and been creative in leading book studies and scavenger hunts, which the scavenger hunt will be on Mother's Day this year, so that'll be another happy Easter. And I've appreciated so much Greg's leadership as music director and often worship leader, adapting early in the pandemic to be on his own, our entire worship band. You remember those days when the Holtman children couldn't believe how many times they saw him on the screen at the same time. I've so appreciated that. He was the first motivator to get us going with Victoria in getting our music online. And now bringing it back live. What a gift. I'm so glad I was here for that. Adam and Duncan at the back today have had a wild ride as under Christine's supervision, and you may not know that Christine doesn't walk out of here and goes home. She's in the office directing Duncan and managing the live stream. And they've dealt with all of that while directing our hosts, who have to provide us with the material that we get live. And so they have done a great job and an expanded job from what they thought they were going to do. So that's Hannah and Jacob wave, and Malik, Mohammed, and Abby. Abby's out with the Sunday school. Multi-talented young people, and it's just been really great to have their presence with us. Janice, our assistant administrator, through it all, a calm voice on the phone, a serene presence in the office, meanwhile like a duck in a swamp, pedaling furiously in the reeds of pandemic and Wi-Fi and phone issues, building and tenant management, COVID, incident reporting, and a myriad of other responsibilities that she was actually hired for. And then John, whom you may see before and after